quite frequently, the questions are very sincere because they've studied only Keynesian economics. And I say, well, what will happen? We're in a recession. What would happen if the government quit spending $1 trillion? I said, well, think of it this way. It isn't so much that the government's going to, the fact that the government's quitting spending $1 trillion. It would be that the government would quit spending it and the people would spend $1 trillion. And that's what would happen, and that would be much better. I, quite frankly, am very frank about what I think the nature and the philosophy of a president ought to be. The president shouldn't be running the economy. You know, the president doesn't know what to do. The Congress doesn't know what to do. Only the people know what to do on how to run the economy. Now, I don't say that we can get out of this mess by snapping our fingers and everything will be perfect, but I know what we're doing is wrong and it's prolonging the agony, and it's going to be worse than our depression if we don't change our ways. But what we need to do, though, is not scare people with what the correction is all about. Because I don't think we should propose our viewpoints by saying, well, I have the problems as long as you're willing to sacrifice. But why would it be that if I came along and talked to the businessman and to you in this audience and say, look, what I want to do is I want to deregulate you. I don't want the federal government down in your states and having mandates. I don't think that's a sacrifice to have less regulations from the federal government.
Amen. Yeah.
A sacrifice to you if you could trust the currency. How many here now would say, well, I'm saving for my children's education, I'm going to buy a 20-year bond and make 0.5% or 0.25%, and I know I'll have the purchasing power in 20 years. Nobody believes that. You know. So what if you had sound money and you could save money and you could be confident that you can take care of your future? What else? Not only that, the prices of education would come down. But why would it be a sacrifice to us if you didn't have any income tax? That doesn't sound like a sacrifice to me. I would think this would be wonderful. Have to change. The people have to change their attitude about what the role of government ought to be, and that is important because no matter how many people we have in Washington, they will reflect the demands of the people. So if the people still say entitlements are rights and we want to steal money from one group and you give it to us, it's not going to work. So we have to change the people's attitude about the role of government. But there's another area that we have to at least address, and I believe we have to change to get this correction over with. And that has to do with what we're doing overseas. We're spending, the DOD budget's not this big, but believe me, there are a lot of other budgets that are involved in what we're doing overseas. The intervention, the State Department, the CIA, our troops, and taking care of the wounded and all, it's costing us over $1 trillion. Our wars in the last 10 years, 10, 11 years now, has added $4 trillion worth of debt to our national debt. But just think of, what if we'd have had this $4 trillion in the economy? Just think how much richer this economy would be. And what have we gotten for all these wars? We've gotten nothing but grief. I mean, we're not spreading our Constitution. We're not spreading our goodness. We're spreading a viewpoint of America which I don't think is a good viewpoint of America.
Amen.
A lot of people believe they have a moral obligation, starting with Woodrow Wilson, that we had to prove to the world that we were the most moral and most wise nation, and we had the right and the obligation to force our way and to teach other people. This though doesn't work. Using force to force our goodness on anybody cancels out all the goodness. great country, the freest and the richest, and we have a lot of wonderful traits and wonderful characteristics that we want to. But why don't we concentrate on a free market economy, a sound currency, protection of civil liberties, a sensible foreign policy, and then we could be a nation where other countries would want to emulate us and follow our lead. But unless we change our attitude, and that means the people, about how much we should be involved overseas, it's not going to happen. We're going to work to the bankruptcy. And that's not real far off. So my position is that it should be a lot easier for liberals and conservatives and independents to come together and cut overseas spending and cut these wars. That's what I think would be the easiest thing to cut. Simply means we bring our troops home as soon as possible. Now, the other thing about this is that it's a way to work our way out of it. If we don't work our way out of it and have a dollar collapse, everybody's checks bounce. And then you have political chaos, and then I worry about our civil liberties. But if we do this sensibly and cut the spending overseas, what about all this effort to worry about a border that nobody can identify between Pakistan and Afghanistan? Think of how much fighting and killing we're going over there. Nobody even knows where at all, so we just bomb everybody, you know. But what about our own borders to the south? There's the responsibility of the federal government. We can do that with a lot less resources than worrying about all those overseas borders. And in the last 5 years, it is estimated 50,000 people have been killed on that border down there. And it involves not only, I think, less so the immigration problem than our failed policy on the drug war. I think.